Hey guys, it's me, Miss Norris, and today I'd like to share a fun read aloud with you of the story, The Mysterious Giant of Barletta. The story, The Mysterious Giant of Barletta, has been retold and illustrated by Tomie DePaola in 1984, and it tells the story of a very mysterious giant in a very small Italian town. It's one of my favorites from when I was a kid. As you can see, my book is very old and worn because my brother and I like to listen to it so many times. If you're ready to hear the story, I'm ready to share it with you. Here we go. The Mysterious Giant of Barletta. So you can see there's people looking out their windows and some very big feet. Giant feet, perhaps. In the town of Barletta, in front of the church of San Sepolcro, stood a huge statue. No one knew where it had come from or when. The mysterious giant, for that is what the people called the statue, had always been there, as long as anyone could remember. So I'll give you a closer look. The mysterious giant is a statue, and nobody knows where it came from. It's just always been there. Even Zia Concetta. Zia Concetta was the oldest one in all of Barletta. She lived right across the square from the giant statue. Every day, every night, for my whole lifetime, I've looked out the window, and there he is, she would say. So here's Zia Concetta, and she's the oldest person in the village. And he's just always been there. She says goodnight to him. Good weather and bad, the mysterious giant stood there. The people of Barletta loved having the statue in their town. In the early morning, right before the sun came up, the sisters from the convent and other townspeople came to the church for Holy Mass. They always greeted the giant with a nod or a smile. The people on the way to market always hailed the giant and asked that he give them good luck to sell all their goods or to get a good bargain. All day long the children played around his legs and the doves flew around his head. The young boys would sit on his big feet and tell jokes. A little later, the older boys would sit on the giant's feet to watch the older girls walk by. And at night, lovers would steal kisses in the giant's shadow. So, all day long, no matter what's going on, the giant of Barletta, the statue, is there. He says good morning. He's there in good and bad weather. He says hello to the sisters of the convent, and they all smile and nod. Everyone asks for good bargains at the market. The little kids, sit on his toes, and the bigger kids sit on the toes on the feet so they can look at the ladies passing by. And at night, people kiss in the shadow of the statue. He's always there. Then the streets would be empty. Doves would settle on the giant's head and shoulders and arms and coo themselves to sleep. And Zia Concetta would open her window and call, "Buena notte, Colosso." Good night, big one. This was the time the giant loved best. All was calm, all was still. Ah, what a peaceful life, the mysterious giant thought. So at night, all of the birds rest on the giant statue. Zia says good night, buena notte, Colosso. Colosso means giant. And this is the giant's favorite time because everything is quiet and calm and the good life. But one day, this peaceful life was over. Word had reached the town that an army of 1,000 men was destroying all the towns and cities along the lower Adriatic coast. And this army was heading straight for Barletta. The townspeople ran through the streets in panic. No one in Barletta was ready for an army coming to destroy them. They had no generals, no captains. Why, they didn't even have any soldiers. Dun, dun, dun! Shouts and screams echoed off the buildings. The night was lit by torches. All the peace and quiet was gone. No doves came to settle on the mysterious giant's shoulders, and Zia Concetta didn't call Buona Notte from her window. The mysterious giant didn't like this at all. So there's an army of 1,000 men coming to attack all the cities on the Adriatic coast. That's along the coast of Italy. And they're coming to Barletta next. And Barletta, they don't want to fight. And they want to fight so little that they're not prepared, and they're getting freaked out. And the statue, Colosso, he doesn't like this, not one single bit. But what are they going to do? The next morning was no better. It seemed as though everyone was at church for Holy Mass, but there was no market. No one even smiled, let alone waved at the mysterious giant. No children played. Everyone rushed around, piling their belongings in carts and wagons. Everyone was getting ready to run from Barletta. Everyone except Zia Concetta. And, you guessed it, the mysterious giant. Colosso, she said to the huge statue, as long as I can remember, you have stood there looking over this town and its people. Barletta loves you. And I know you love Barletta. I wish you could do something to save us from this army. With your size, I'm sure you could frighten them away. Why don't you step down off of your pedestal? So everyone is freaking out. They're packing their stuff and leaving. No one's smiling, having any fun. And the only things that are staying in Barletta are Zia Concetta and the mysterious giant. And she says, come down. This is something that a statue stands on is a pedestal. She says, come down from here. And just being as big as you are, you could scare those other armies away. But can a statue move? Can a statue come alive? In a magical book, it can. And that's just what the mysterious giant did. Now, said Zia Concetta. They put their heads together and came up with an idea. And a good one, too, said Zia Concetta. So it seems as though, like another character from a Tomie DePaola book, Zia Concetta's kind of like a little stregonona, like a little witch. And maybe she has the magic touch after all. And she and the giant have a plan. What could it be? The mysterious giant climbed back and stood still. People of Barletta, Zia Concetta called. Come quickly, great news, un miracolo, a miracle. Our giant is going to save us. Come! The people of Barletta gathered around. Friends, Zia Concetta said, our giant will go meet this army himself. All you have to do is 3 things. First, bring me the biggest onion you can find. Second, stay completely out of sight. Hide under the bed, hide in the closet, hide in the cellar, hide in the attic, but stay out of sight. And third, don't ask any questions. Have faith in our mysterious giant. Ooh, that is kind of like Stregonona. She says, don't ask me any questions about this. Don't talk about this. Excuse me. Someone quickly brought an onion. Now hide! Zia Concetta shouted, and everyone scurried off. Well, Colosso, said Zia Concetta, as she sliced the onion in half. Buona fortuna. That means good luck in Italian. The mysterious giant took an onion half in each hand, once more stepped off the pedestal, and strode off to meet the army. So there's a plan, and there's only 3 steps. 1, I need an onion. Check. 2, everyone hide, stay out of sight, get under your beds, go to your cellars, go wherever you can. Don't let anyone see you. And 3, don't ask any questions. But what do you think the onion is for? 3 miles outside the city, the mysterious giant sat down by the side of the road and held the onion pieces close to his eyes. Big tears began to run down his cheeks. The giant made loud, sobbing noises. What a sight the army saw as it came over the hill. "Halt!" shouted the captain. The army halted. "What is that?" What is that? Whispered the captain whispered to one of his lieutenants. "It looks like a boy crying," answered the lieutenant. "Well, we'll see about this," said the captain, marching off to where the mysterious giant sat. So the mysterious giant held those onions close to his eyes and started crying. And the army captain wants to know what is going on here. And so he's marching right up and he's going to ask them. "I am Captain Minkion," the captain declared. "We have come to destroy this town. Who are you and what are you doing here crying? No tricks now. Answer me." "Oh, sir," said the giant, sobbing, "I'm sitting out here, away from the town, because the other boys in school won't let me play with them. They say I'm too small. They call me names like Minusculo and Bibole. Tiny and weakling. I'm always the last one chosen for games, and today they told me that if I tried to go to school, they would beat me up. I hate being so small." Did you hear that? He's telling the captain that he's here because he's the small one and everyone's picking on him, calling him minusculo. That means tiny and weakling. The giant sniffled loudly and blew the hats off the soldiers standing in front. The captain and the army stood dumbstruck. If this giant was a small boy that the others teased, then imagine the rest of the people of this town, what the rest of the people of this town were like. "But someday, sir," the giant bellowed, "someday I'll show them. I'm gonna eat all my pasta and I'm gonna grow up big and strong. And then I'll be able to fight back." The soldiers began to back away, trembling. The lieutenants gathered around the captain, who had backed away from the giant, too. There was only one thing to do. Captain Minkion and his lieutenants drew their swords, then they held them in the air and shouted. So when Colosso says, "I'm going to show everybody, I'm going to eat my pasta and I'm going to be a big strong boy and then I'll show them," and he sniffles and their hats all blow off, and now they're scared, they're trembling, but now they all have their swords out. "About face, double-time march!" The army turned and fairly ran in the opposite direction of Barletta. The mysterious giant threw away the onion halves and dried his tears and went back to the church of San Sepolcro. So they didn't shout attack, they shouted run. Then the Colosso, the mysterious giant, threw away the onions and went back to his pedestal. "They're gone!" shouted Zia Concetta to the townspeople as the giant climbed back on his pedestal once more. "The army is gone! You can come out now! The town has been saved! Our giant did it!" Che bella festa! What a celebration was held that night. So the mysterious giant climbs back onto his pedestal. Zia Concetta says, "Everyone come back outside. Our giant has saved us." And then they had a big celebration in the town square. But when it was over and the moon was high in the sky, the mysterious giant looked out over the sleeping town. Doves cooed themselves to sleep on his head and shoulders. Everything was calm. Everything was still. Zia Concetta opened her window. "Buonanotte, Colosso," she called. "And grazie." Grazie is an Italian word that means thank you. So that night after the celebration, everything was in its right place. The doves were on his head. He was on his pedestal. Zia was in her house. And she says, just like always, good night. And this time she adds a big thank you. And there's Colosso looking out over the town at night. The end. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the story, The Mysterious Giant of Barletta, please hit that thumbs up button at the bottom of the page. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. If you're not a subscriber yet, please click that subscribe button down at the bottom of the page, and don't forget to click the bell so that you're notified when there's new content. And if you enjoy stories by Tomie DePaola, which I do, please tune in every Wednesday and Friday in the month of June for a brand new Tomie DePaola story. I hope to see you all again real soon. Bye-bye.